Hello, welcome to today's PELCAST. I'm Pasha and this is Ken. And today we're going to talk a little bit about, or at least start talking about, how cheating works, frauds and scams and sort of the psychology behind it, and, how someone can start doing it and not to actually condone it, but how it actually starts in real life, and also, more importantly, how to prevent yourself from becoming a victim of a fraud or a scam, not only in business but in normal life, as well as maybe relationships, maybe games that you play, or anywhere where there's any kind of competitive incentive. So there's lots of different things that come out of it. Lots of these aspects are used in games from an AI perspective as well. And yeah, so we'll kind of just navigate through those topics and go where we go as usual. So Ken, what's sort of the main highlight of sort of cheating or fraud, would you say?
Yeah.
In humans, of course,
The,
for now.
the biggest highlight is every day there's a naive person being born.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's someone you can cheat in the world being
Right.
born. Someone who've never seen a cheater or fraudster before.
Yeah.
That they've been protected from society
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
being protected, usually vulnerable people.
Right.
And fraudster target them specifically. Right.
Yeah.
So they how to defend yourself is very, very important when you're naive and you have never seen such I don't want to say evil behavior, but a behavior that will take advantage of everything that you have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it doesn't all, I mean, of course, if something happens to you, you'll automatically, typically learn to be more aware of that or noticing signs of it a bit early.
Exactly.
But doesn't mean you have to go through being a victim to be aware of these things. You can
Yes. Yes.
learn from, your parents saying, oh, be careful, this might happen or that might happen.
Yeah.
And of course, friends or anybody around you could make you aware of potential dangers or risks.
Yes.
And, you could do your own research and, we're going to talk about it. You might, pick up a few points from here. I feel like none of these things are sort of set in stone. Not every sign is absolutely going to lead to something positive or negative.
Yes.
Whatever we kind of talk about, they might do this, they might do that as part of a scheme. I feel like it should come with a grain of salt that, this is typical things we're talking about.
Yeah.
Not that as soon as you see something, it's like, oh yeah, that's a fraudster or a cheater. That's not the case.
Yes.
There's a big spectrum, and we can only talk about the major averages kind of thing. So
Yeah. There is frauds and those negative cunning behaviors. There is a positive element of them as well. They're extreme version of something more positive. So when, let's say, like when you're a salesperson or when you want to go out and compete in those competitive field, you need to have a flexible mind, like creative mind to handle social behaviors, like understanding people's intentions, their thoughts, their emotions, and adapt what you say to what they want to hear, right? In a way to secure a contract or secure ways to make win-win situations for everyone. So that kind of mindset, extreme version of them is cheating. So you understand a win-win for everyone, but you want a lot more win than the other person.
Right.
And then so you use that ability to be cunning and understand and being socially creative, and then use it for more of to get more of your benefit for yourself.
Okay.
Right. So, and being able to have that social creativity, some people are born with those abilities, because there's something called theory of mind. Theory of mind is an ability that human being develops after they reach about 4 or 5 years old, and that is a developmental stage where the children start to understand that another person hold beliefs that are different from the belief that they have.
Right. Okay.
So, for example, if there's an experiment done where they highlight a toy into a box, and the child doesn't know that the toy has been hidden, and and if you show the child or didn't show the child about the toy, the child would just look for the toy, right, instead of asking the person. But after the child developed the theory of mind, they start to understand that, oh,
someone else may have
the information
that
I don't have. Yeah, and they'll ask for it, and they'll understand, or they understand someone has deliberately hidden it. Right. That element of deliberately having a specific mind that different from yours, and that understanding is a brain development stage.
Right.
And only some children do not reach that stage. Like very extremely autistic children do not reach theory of mind, where they struggle with understanding other people's intentions and emotions. And normal children reach that around that age. And when you reach an adult, like around 25 or 30, then you have a much more better of theory of mind. And you can train theory of mind just based on how many people you meet every day, just how many social interactions you have, and then or how many burns you've gotten from people, right? From people who want to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
So you learn more over time. And yeah, theory of mind is very much linked to like fraudsters and cheaters as well. Because cheaters want to know very much what the other person's thinking and what the other person is trying to achieve, and then they just come in and swoop in and take out everything else, right? So they have a very high understanding of theory of mind, and that's why, I mean, you know about social engineering in a hacking groups and things like that. Maybe you can get into a little bit.
Yeah.
And they use specific, like they fake to be a specific official to get information out of, right? Or they faked like pretending to be nice to them, or pretending to have a close family relationship with them, like just oh, you know, I grew up there. Just they were just Googling it, right? And they just like saying it just to have that quick connection to get information out of them, so they can hack into the companies and things like that. Yeah, can you get into that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think there's as soon as we understand that, you know, we are riding this body that is, you know, full of loopholes and sort of errors that happen all the time, you know, like a optical illusion is just failures of your visual system, really. You know, it's just in daily life we just come across things which we just understand, but there's a huge amount of interpolation and extrapolation that's happening by our visual system and our brain, sort of creating that image that, you know, we see.
Exactly.
And when you sort of dive down into some of those things which our brain is not set up to deal with, it just freaks out and gives you some weird response which you don't expect, nor is reality, you know. So that's just a simple one in such a taken for granted sense that most people have. And so just like that, I mean, that's just one you can test easily, but there's hundreds of different aspects of human psychology and brain function which you can trick, right? So there's the social aspect, there's the connection aspect, there's, you know, hearing, and there's every sense that you can trick in multiple ways. Yeah. And
like people, for example, tend to jump to conclusions, and you can take advantage of that, right, for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some in sort of penetration testing, stuff like that. There's some major ones which come across all the time, like, you know, not questioning authority, for example.
Yes.
You know, you can. It's not just a saying; it's true that you can literally just walk into anywhere with a ladder and a notepad and a high visibility jacket and a hard hat on. No one's going to question you. You know, you can just walk in. You just are perceived in a certain way that, you know what you're doing. You're here for a reason. You have that authority to do it. That's why you're doing it. Yeah. Who's crazy enough to just walk in without any credentials? And so you just get in, right? So there's those aspects. There's the aspects of, you know, if I just ask you directly, what's your password? You're going to be like, I'm not going to tell you. But there's so many different ways of getting around that.
Of course.
And just bypassing your firewalls that you have in place.
Psychological firewalls.
Exactly, your mental firewalls that you have in place, which are kept in an obvious place because it's obvious to keep it there, that, you know, don't write your password and give it to Pasha, you know, that's fine. But, like, you can just get around that because you don't have any firewalls there because you never expected that scenario to play out.
Yeah.
Nobody told you about that possibility.
Yes.
Once you become aware of it, you can be more aware of that and notice it coming up. But otherwise, you could be the most aware person. I try to be aware outside, but I know how many times I catch myself distracted for like a split second and I missed out on something which I thought was important for the whole time.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I can do nothing other than be aware that I cannot be aware all the time.
Yes.
So all you can do is prevent things from happening. Like, when I'm in an airport or something, I try to keep my hands free all the time. I don't carry my passport in my hand and on my phone in my hand. I'll keep my hands free. Take out what I need, put it back, stop moving, stop doing everything, put things back in.
Yes.
Because it takes nothing to distract you, and you walk like 10 minutes and realize I left my I don't know, whatever, like license over there or passport over there or something.
Yes.
So, and as soon as you're on the receiving end of it, there's a lot to take care of. So the best you can do is try to be aware and prevent. But
Yes.
ultimately, if you unfortunately become a target for any reason, on the internet, for example, I've been attacked many times. Most people have been attacked without being aware of it by robots or bots just trying things. There's
hacking
millions of those attacks happening constantly all the time. I'm happy when I'm attacked with that, right? Because that's just part of life at this point.
Sure.
You're in trouble if a human is interested in you for any reason, whether it's monetary or revenge or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. If they set their sight on you,
if you're in someone's sight, there really isn't much you can do.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, there simply isn't enough processing power in your head or your computers for you to set up to lock every single possible attack vector.
That's right.
It's just not possible. So you can only rely on the fact that the other side is a human, and you can simply stay ahead of them. So as long as you're a target, you constantly have to keep getting ahead of them, because if you stop getting ahead of them, they will get ahead of you, and you're done, right?
Yeah.
So that's, I think, like the key. That's why the key thing in any kind of social engineering, security things is, the weakest link are the humans.
Absolutely,
it's not the digital stuff.
That's where social engineering come in.
Because the digital aspects, they're either going to have a loophole or you're going to fix that loophole, and you no longer have that. You have to find a new one, right? And that kind of starts, it's a finite amount, even including the unknown loopholes, which will be found at some point later on. It's still a finite amount of ways to get in. But for humans, there's an infinite amount of ways to get in. There's so many networks, as in human networks, people, and emotions and relationships, types of relationships. It's all kinds of things that can happen. So
one of the extraordinary abilities that human beings have that other animals don't have is our ability to deceive and lie.
Okay.
Right. Other animals like chimpanzees can deceive as well, but not to the same extent that we can.
Okay, yeah. If you say extent, then I absolutely agree, because there are certain animals.
Then primates can deceive.
Primates, and also I've seen birds do it.
Yes.
Some corvids.
Whales can do it.
Corvids, and well, don't know about whales, but dolphins. The mammalian sea creatures.
Yes.
Octopi do that all the time. It's just part of their hunting behavior, really, and squids as well. So cuttlefish, maybe not squids. Absolutely.
So the reason why our deception is so well honed is because of our language, as well as our inability to read thoughts of others, right? So when you speak to me now, or when someone else speaks to me, I have limited information, like what they're saying, the words they're saying, like the gesture they're doing, the facial expression they're doing, body language. That's the only thing you can do. You cannot understand what they're really thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So what's happening in the brain is completely cut off from us. But we can read signs from what they.
You,
But
you,
if
you
someone
have
masters
access to the symptoms of my thoughts, but
exactly,
not
yeah,
my thoughts, no matter what.
exactly,
You can get maybe 99% accurate, maybe even 100% accurate, but it'll still be your analysis of my behavior,
yeah,
not reading my thoughts like a book.
directly, yeah.
Yeah.
And those symptoms, people can master it, like by acting skills,
Right, yeah.
like voice skills,
yeah.
language skill,
Makes
etc.
sense, yeah.
And also, our brain think much faster than we speak. Our brain can think 10 times faster than we speak, right? So we're already thinking like 3 to 4 steps ahead of what we want to talk about, way before that we're able to understand, right? The other person are able to understand me, and also I think deception from evolutionary psychology perspective and also anthropology perspective is they say it's come from gossip and keeping track of people's reputation in small village sort of scenarios, small village hunter-gatherer scenarios, and people who deceive and get ahead of others, right? From a reputation perspective, they get a lot more reproductive success, right? And people who share or who communicate about other people lying. So like if someone lied to you,
Right.
you will share that gossip about it and you share that information to everybody in the group, right? That person's a liar, right?
Yeah.
So there are selection against bad liars, but if you're really good at lying, yeah, if you're really good at lying, you go up much faster, right? In a reputation of a group.
Yeah, because
small group.
the like almost, I would say, yeah, close to 100% of lies have an intention of advantage for that person lying,
Of
right?
course, yes.
There's going to be very weird, tiny niche situations where someone would lie for something genuinely directly negative to just themselves and nothing else to anybody else.
Some there are pathological liars who are like just do it for fun, but at the disadvantage to themselves because just they enjoy seeing other persons being confused about their lies. So they're the very small minority.
Is
very
that
small.
the reason? Seeing someone else, like, is that the amusement of confusion of others, or is it?
Or they have very little control over their own thoughts. Right? So
Right.
they constantly lie about themselves and situations, scenarios. But they're a very small minority, and they have mental illness or neurological diseases. So they're the exception, right? So,
Right.
But most people lie because they want to get an advantage, as you said.
But I can obviously see a decent chunk of reason for lying to also be maybe negative for self, but positive for someone they care about.
Could be, yeah. Could be.
Like for children.
Sacrificial type of lies, yeah.
So if that's why I said directly only negative to them and nothing else to anybody, no other effect on anybody else.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see not big, but a decent chunk of that percentage to be where it's negative directly to them, but
to the individual.
to the individual, but positive to someone they perceive as they care about, or whatever other reason. Positive somewhere else, not pure negative here and nothing else kind of thing.
If they lie for someone, they will lie for their close family members, like their children or their close family, because they're genetically linked. If you die, then you still their genes will still get passed on, right? But also people lie for their community or their nation or the group that they belong to, because a group selection also matters in human evolution. So some individuals sacrifice themselves by lying so that the group can survive or thrive.
Yeah, because I was going to say, as soon as you said family, that you would do that for friends too in many cases.
Sure, yeah, so part of the community
that's where,
group.
That's where that comes in. Okay, yeah, true.
Yeah.
Right.
And people, if you look at a lot of people who do frauds or cunning or cheating, they're just trying, I don't want to sympathize with them too much, but they're just trying to help their family, right? Usually they want to get money to support their family, or because they want to do the quick, easy way rather than the hard way of mastery.
The thing is, when you are born in a surrounding or environment where it is so prolific, that it is part of life, And if the negative effects of being the victim are not in your peripheral,
Yes.
then
In your immediate vicinity.
then you don't even have to think that, oh no, I have to do this for my family. It just feels like this is what we do.
Yeah, feels like work, basically.
And where I'm coming from is certain places in India where it is
India. I was
so normal
Yeah.
that it is almost a career path. I mean, it is a career path.
Yeah. They have call centers for fraud.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a proper. Oh, you either do this or you do that. Like, and
They say things fair game.
and no one's gonna bat an eye. It's just, oh yeah, they're working in a hotel. Oh yeah, he's in the call center, and there's the undertones of, oh yeah, that call center. Okay, and nobody. It's not looked at as a taboo
As a shame,
or anything.
Yeah.
And they will all protect each other.
Yeah.
And because
they
are
tend to
getting
target foreign targets.
Yeah, and even before getting to the target aspect, like, they're all communally receiving the advantages of it.
Exactly.
And so they're all kind of incentivized to keep it going, right? And going to the victim side of things, they're never going to, come across the people that are the victims of those, right?
Exactly.
And so they never see them usually. They'll only hear their voices, and it becomes really easy for them to kind of, disconnect the empathy and sympathy, and keep it somewhere else and just do this as a job kind of thing, So, so I mean, going back to the point, like, I don't think they necessarily have to feel like they are obliged to do something, like when you're stealing something physically, the victim is in front of you, you're an armed robber or something, then it's going to be really hard for you to convince yourself you're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
But then that's when, you have the overpower feeling of, I need to do this for my family.
Yeah.
Then you overpower that and you do it anyway.
Yeah, if you're in a desperate situation.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then when you're doing something so disconnected, you can totally just dive into that and just do this as a job.
Yeah.
And never even feel genuinely that you're doing something wrong,
Yeah. I've seen a lot of places in India do a lot of fraud companies, and of course
it's all over the world, but
Nigeria,
it's obviously
places in Nigeria,
there are
places in
certain
Kenya,
places where it's very prolific.
Like places in South America.
Yeah.
And they tend to target vulnerable people, like elderly people or young people.
But the thing is, they don't start targeting those people.
Okay.
They go for everybody.
Yes, that's a strategy.
It's the vulnerable or the gullible or the less aware
get caught by the
fall
net.
into it, right?
Get caught by the net.
And that's where they continue.
Yes.
Because I get these calls all the time.
Yeah.
And it takes them maybe 3 seconds of hearing my voice, not even past hello, for them to decide that it's not worth my time to try and scam this person.
That's right.
You know? And so I have behaved vulnerable a few times to see where it goes, just out of curiosity. And they go ahead with it as soon as I take up the personality of someone vulnerable or gullible, right? And so it's not that I'm male, it's not about my voice, it's not about my English, not about my accent, none of that. It's purely about my mindset and my awareness of what could be happening.
Whether you're naive enough to be fooled.
Yeah. And as soon as they feel like the other person doesn't know what's going on, is where they're going to continue.
And they make thousands of calls a day.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And then they basically segment the people like, okay, this person has responded, and then this person is vulnerable, this person doesn't know finance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then just go on and on.
Yeah,
and then they find like those ideal targets. They hone in on it basically, right? By just they spread shot first.
Yeah,
and then they hone in.
And there's no intelligence behind honing into it. It's purely based on the response of the other side.
Exactly. Yeah.
And these systems are real, proper enterprise grade systems, which are in place for marketing agencies to do real marketing and real businesses.
Yes, that's right.
It's just used for this, and so you'd get a call and a robot would talk to you, and you'd tell you that your PayPal account has a debit of £900 for an iPhone or something, and you just, the person who ignores it, and nothing happens past that.
Yes.
But the person who responds saying, press 1 to do this, those are the ones who get put through to the humans to get further pushed down the path, So, yeah, I mean...
Have you seen those very funny videos on YouTube where a guy who's really, really good with computer just fraud them back?
Yeah,
or
I've
hack
seen a
them
bunch
back?
of them.
They're so funny.
I think Jim Browning is one of the biggest ones in that. And they've
and then
done
some people send cockroaches to their call center.
Yeah, so they've done some physical things back as well. And I think Mark Rober has participated in that as well. So I mean, there's plenty of that. Unfortunately, it's akin to telling the third world countries to stop polluting,
Yeah, basically.
It's like, unless the first world, I'm always going to do first world like this for maybe 2-3 years now.
Yeah.
I'm never going to say
slightly more developed countries.
Slightly more developed countries.
Let's say that.
Slightly more developed countries. I mean, unless these slightly more developed countries go and literally replace their infrastructure for free, that's not going to happen.
No one's that charitable.
And it's like all the slightly developed countries have done their pollution and
they've gone through that development.
And their crime.
They've done that before.
Massive negative things that we perceive as negative in other countries now. They've gone through those stages when the other countries had kingdoms or no government. And we've kind of just gone to a point where, okay, this is better. We have a government and this and that and that. Oh, why don't you have it? You should have it too. No, they haven't gone through that phase yet. Unless you're going to go and just literally replace everything, it's not going to just magically happen, right?
Yeah.
So similar to that, you can do as much as you want to stop those things. Maybe someone will come up with a way to completely eradicate those types of scams. The concept of scamming a foreign country because of the exchange rate and the economic imbalance and the power of economy in other countries, there's always going to be a way found to take advantage of that, right? Whether it's via a call or an internet scam or email scam, whatever it is, you can block as many as you want. The concept isn't going to go away until the country is sort of revamped, which will go in its speed. It's not going to happen.
It will eventually happen, when everybody reach a comfortable level of living, they will naturally stop doing these quick fraud behaviors. And also, interestingly, when, let's say you're in a stable environment and then suddenly you're hit with a natural disaster, or your environment, the security of your environment just crash, that's where you see a lot of cheating and fraud happening. Or like someone take advantage of, like, let's say you don't have access to food anymore, but someone has stocked the food because they knew the natural disaster was coming, and then they sell 10 times the price.
Absolutely.
And then everybody hate that guy, but they still have to buy from him.
Absolutely,
right? And that kind of behaviors, when extreme scarcity, extreme disasters happen, those people who are naturally socially creative and cunning, they tend to thrive in those scenarios, and then they take advantage of others.
I think including the one you just mentioned, I think there's two ways of getting to that state. I think one is, of course, something happening, either natural or human-made, wars or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Anything that creates that kind of scarcity or difficulty in sustaining basic needs.
Yes.
But I think the other angle to that is also a sudden decrease in consequences as well. If for any reason you have all the resources around you just the same, and no one's stopping you from getting them more than before, but if suddenly the consequence of cheating are eradicated,
because you can't prosecute them, you can't punish them.
If the punishment
whole
or the
city is
consequence,
underwater, whatever.
If the punishment or consequence also goes away without the sudden lack of resources, these people will just start doing it. And when I say these people, I mean all people, including myself, I'm sure. Like, we all have that in us because we behave in a certain way. Majority, for myself, I try to live in a way that what I think is right to do.
Yeah, moral.
Like, I'm not murdering someone because of the law. I'm not murdering someone because I don't want to murder people.
That's right.
You
Yes.
know?
Yes.
So as soon as that consequence goes away, the people who are stopping themselves purely because of the law will start to do those things, right?
Of course, yeah.
And so we're starting to see that these days with all the looting and everything in America and in many other countries as well.
Yeah.
So, like, that is not because
Shoplifting has gone crazy in America.
that's not because the resources have decreased. That's not because someone stopped paying them or something.
Yeah.
It's purely the sudden decrease in consequence.
Yeah. Like, there's looting issued in the New York City, and the police just don't care, and they don't prosecute.
It's not that they don't care. The law has been set up.
Yeah, the law
in a way
protects
that it's protecting them.
Protect the one who's stealing, and so the consequence of that is because those small retailers are losing stock, they increase the price to make profitable, right?
Yeah.
Double the price because they lost 50% of the stock, and then afterwards, when nobody buys from them, they lose. They just close the business,
Exactly,
and then the whole neighborhood lose that retailer, right?
Yeah.
And that is a massive long-term consequence. But in the short term, let's just steal, right?
Yeah.
Like, these are big companies, who cares? Just steal from them. But that mindset is okay in the short term, right, for your own benefit. But in the long term, the entire city suffers because of it, right?
and basically what's happening is the big shops, the big sort of supermarkets, you know, Walmarts and Costco's, they have the resources to kind of lock things down inside the shop.
Of course.
So they do that first, of course, but even the big ones are closing down. But the thing is, in that transition period of them doing that, all that's really doing is it's opening up the tiny shops to more shoplifting and stealing.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
And the tiny shop can't afford those locks.
Yeah, it just reroutes it, and then the big ones close, and then the small ones close. So that's what's happened. Also, I don't know where to convey this, but yeah, maybe I'll put it on Twitter or something. But there's I thought of this option the other day, which was to basically all these shops, like when I remember this when you mentioned that they're increasing their prices, right? So what I thought about was to, like, the law there now is like, if someone is stealing, if they're stealing more than $1,000, then they'll be prosecuted or whatever. Before that, it's just like a slap on your wrist, you know, don't do that again kind of thing, warning. So I was basically thinking, every single product, whether it's $2 or $200, you simply add $1,000 to that price officially.
Okay.
Right. So you pick up a piece of gum that's $1,001, for example, because it's actually $1.
Sure.
But it's 1,001.
Okay.
But if I go to the checkout, they apply a discount of $1,000 to every single item.
Interesting.
But if I don't pay for it,
Okay.
the value is 1,001.
Okay.
So if I walk out of there with a piece of gum,
Right.
I just stole $1,001 worth of thing, and it's officially that price
Okay.
in every catalog everywhere. They are just happening to apply a discretionary discount of $1,000 on every item when I go to the checkout.
Yeah.
Even if I go to self-checkout.
Will that deter the stealers?
Whether it deters someone or not,
Yeah.
it completely bypasses that stupid law.
Oh, okay. You're trying to bypass the law.
Because you could pick up, you know, a pencil and steal it today. There's not a law inside which can stop you. But if it costs $1,002, but if you go to the checkout, you'll pay $2.
Yes.
And the value, it's yours now because they decided to give you a discount.
Yes.
And the pencil's yours. But if you don't go to the checkout or even the self-checkout, if you don't have the receipt of paying $2 with a $1,000 discount, it's not yours.
Yes.
And if you get caught, you've just stolen more than $1,000 worth of stuff.
Okay.
So if a shop really wanted to do that, even in a small shop,
so you can prosecute them
because they have control over their costs and whatever systems, right? So they can just apply that, you know, to every single item.
Yeah. Some other societies have a lot harsher punishments for stealing.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So,
Golf or anything.
You know, cutting off your hand, or like massive fines, and even like just littering has big consequences in like Singapore or Dubai,
or with the whole social credit systems and stuff.
Yeah, so they're not tolerant of small crimes because they believe that small crimes lead to big crimes.
How you do anything
or they're both the
is how
same,
you do everything.
or they're the same to them.
Yeah.
But in the West or America or in Europe, like small crimes shouldn't unfairly be prosecuted because they might be suffering, and we should be more empathetic. But that might be a flawed mindset as well, or it could be good as well, right? There are the laws protecting the stealers because they're vulnerable, or those vulnerable people are part of a big gang or organized crime, right? And both are probably the same, right? It's a difficult thing to balance in society. And also stealing, frauding, cheating, they destroy the fundamental trust you have between people in society.
Yeah.
Because trust is kind of implicit between family, like between genetic relatives, right? Your father, your mother, or your children, like you have that implicit trust. Like you tell someone for family, they'll kind of understand, right? You have a common culture, common genetics. But when you're working with strangers, right, that's when trust becomes the most important resource in the society. And when those cheaters and stealers come to society and pollute the society, or scalpers or whatever, people take advantage of others, it destroys the trust, and people just stop sharing things, just stop trusting, or stop trading. Right? So they believe they will get frauded, but they just stop trading. They only share among themselves, but never trade with a stranger.
And it also triggers people to switch from neutral to scamming behavior.
Yes.
Because I've been in many situations where everyone's kind of doing normally, and there are people who genuinely want to continue that forever.
Of course, yeah.
But then when one person does something to another, they're like, I mean, if they're going to take advantage of the system, I better take advantage of the system as well before things run out. You know?
Exactly, yeah.
So that's obviously...
And then that's the equilibrium that reach. When everybody is cheating, because cheating become normal, it's just normal to cheat. And if you're not cheating, you're the loser. Right? And I want to go into game theory a little bit. So game theory is a logical understanding of fairness and cheating.
Right.
And it's a serious pursuit, intellectual pursuit. And it's discovered by Nash and some other scientists. And so, have you heard about prisoner's dilemma?
I just heard about it, but you should.
Prisoner's dilemma. Basically, imagine there's two prisoners who are part of a gang, right?
Right.
And then
same gang.
Right. Same gang. And then there is a investigator, asking them questions, and investigator give them a choice. So, if you confess to your own crimes, right, and save your friend, then you will get 5 years in prison. Okay, but if you snitch your team member, right, then you get off scot-free, and the other guy get 10 years. Right. But if both of you confess to their crimes, and then both of you save the other person, then you get 5 years in prison. Right. And there are certain personality type. They're just like, I'll snitch and leave, right? And if both of you snitch at each other, then you both get 10 years in prison, right? So if both of you cheat to each of the same member group, then you both lose, basically. And if you snitch and you cheat, and the other person were truthful or protective, then the cheater ones wins, and then the nice guy loses, right? And if both of you protect each other, then both of you have a much less punishment, right? So cooperation has lead to a lesser punishment, but cheating in a trustful society or trustful place, you win, right? So it's set up
in the first instance.
Which we'll go to. So if you have only one bouts of playing, so all the economic games that scientists have developed to understand people's behavior and understanding of fairness is when you have a first bout of, you just meet this person you never met, you don't know this person, you're a stranger, and you play this prisoner dilemma game, people usually just snitch and leave because they'll never see this person again. They don't care about the consequences of their behavior, right? But if you are part of a community, part of a really close-knit family or a gang or whatever, then you protect each other, and if you protect each other, both of you wins. Not to the extent that you cheat and the other person loses, but both of you wins in some instant, right? Like because of a lesser punishment. So in repeated bouts of playing, repeated bouts of you go to prison like 10 times in a row, and if you continuously protecting your team member, then you always wins. You come out of prison much faster, right? So in repeated bouts, cooperation is a much better alternative in long-term success, but in short-term and one-off scenarios, being cheater and snitching is
if you
a good
purely
option.
look at the outcome,
Yes.
cheating
Yes.
Helps out people when they are in a single instance kind of situation. Okay, yeah.
And game theory is set up to understand that behavior, like why people are acting in that way in a prison's dilemma, and some other economic games that people play. And we see that in video games, when video games are in competitive arenas, people do these scenarios, or even in sports as well, people fall into this. They tend to even say like game theory is like part of the world, where we just discover that element that is innate in life. And even like predators and prey scenarios also follow prisoner's dilemma as well.
Okay.
Right. So it's sort of inherent in life itself, and we just discover the game theory from it. Another element of game theory is having a sense of equilibrium. So equilibrium is like a trough that you just fall into, and you just can't get out of it. So you're just like in an equilibrium state, right? And if a society is a trustful society, the best equilibrium is a cooperation, right?
Okay.
So in a repeated bouts of playing. But if the society is extremely corrupt and untrustworthy, then cheating is the equilibrium of that society. Right. And if you're cooperative in a cheating society, then you're the loser. You're just a sucker. But if you are a cheater in a cooperative society,
you'll be shunned and
shunned and shamed, and you might win in the beginning, but when people just get a hold of you, you're done, right? You'll be put in prison, or you'll be shamed and kicked out of the group, whatever it is, right? So, and those equilibriums are extremely important, and in even creating a small community as well, not just society level, but like within just family members, right? So family members, I've seen personally, they sometimes cheat with money. Right, they borrow money, they don't give it back.
Right.
That kind of bad behaviors, but even within family members. And if a family member,
I think it usually only happens within family members because it's that taken for granted kind of.
Sure,
it's easier
to
do
that. The trust is implicit. So the cheaters within family members who take advantage of that, and if you really love that person, you just like let it happen. But at a point you reach a limit where you just completely anger. So anger is sometimes a protective response of unfairness, right? Okay. So you react with anger when someone took advantage of you. If someone that you've been tolerating, and you just reach a point where you just can't tolerate it anymore, and then you react with anger or violence. But that's where like the last bastion of consequence of cheating is violence, right? People would just beat each other through if they feel like they get disadvantaged to the extreme. Right. And it destabilizes the whole thing, right? It does no longer create cooperation, no longer create positivity, and everybody suffers in that scenario. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's built into our psychology of our understanding of fairness, our understanding of cooperation and conflict, right?
Okay.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think in games, I mean, playing multiplayer games all the time. You can absolutely kind of see all of these aspects play, and since there's no real stakes in the game, at least not for me. It depends on the psyche of the person, of course, how seriously someone takes it. But there's obviously cheaters in the games themselves as well. And
like they install a cheating program, and they shoot everybody instantly.
Yeah,
that kind
so
of thing.
there's all those sort of aspects, right? And so because it's in a game, all the things that you mentioned kind of happens at an amplified, accelerated rate. So you can kind of see the whole life cycle of what the equilibrium is, and sort of, for example, I've been in games where, you know, it's just like in Counter-Strike, for example, it's a team of 5 versus 5.
Sure.
And, you know, either on the other team or on our team, there's like one cheater who collaboratively, even if we're trying to fight each other and trying to win against each other, the teams, like there's 10 people in the game and one of them is a cheater, both teams suddenly start to tell that person to stop cheating or tell them to leave.
Yeah, both people on the
opponents and my team
dislike the cheater.
because overall we were in a cooperative equilibrium at the time, because the default is nobody's cheating, and we're all just trying to fight with our mechanical and mental skills in awareness in the game. So as soon as one person started cheating, we would all kind of, you know, take like 10 seconds every round to report the person, and then towards the end that person would get automatically banned because too many reports of cheating against them. So the game would, you know, ban them, and then someone would, a developer would analyze the footage and then decide whether they will be permanently banned or it was just a false alarm. Right? Because they can technically be a really good person, but usually what they say in chat and stuff makes it very obvious that they are cheating stuff like that. So that's what happened. I've been in that situation many times over the last 10 years.
Cheaters are so prevalent.
Where there's one person, and you know, the whole game, including opponents, get along with just getting that one person in trouble, basically, for doing something against the rest of the game. But I've also been in a situation where I have a recording of this in my computer where I joined the game and there were 4 guys on my team who were cheating.
Oh, shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I told the enemy team that they're cheating, and it doesn't matter what they wanted to do or not. The entire game just turned into 2 people from the enemy team starting to cheat to counter it.
Right.
And so we ended up with 4 + 2, 6 out of 10 people cheating in that game. And I'm just along for the ride, right? And I'm just there.
This is exactly what you described my tit for tat scenario.
Yeah. So it triggered the tit for tat.
Yep.
And then the equilibrium changed to a cheating equilibrium where me and the other 2 guys on the other team just can't do anything, and we cannot win. There's nothing, no advantage we can get. We just start the round and we get headshot. And like,
it just becomes a funny scenario rather than
funny and kind of like zero gain for us, and the cheaters just having their fun kind of thing. Whatever they get out of it is what they get out of it. But you know, they're the ones playing the game now. We are completely outside of the game, even though we are along for the ride, right? So the equilibrium kind of switched over to cheating. It started with a tit for tat, and then it just switched over, and the rest of the game is just
the equilibrium switch over.
Nothing I can do. Other than report them. That's it. So
to explain the viewers watching, so tit for tat is basically like you start with the cooperation first, and the moment the other person cheat or act against you, you act against them back, right? Until they behave and then cooperative again, then you become cooperative again.
Ideally,
So ideally, right? So, and this is not counting emotions or hatred or anything like that.
Grudges,
but if you put in emotions and grudges, you may never reach a cooperation ever again. Right. So this is what happens in like world conflicts, you know, wars and cheating in games. Right? It followed that tit for tat scenario. And another funny thing is like, in a cooperative scenario, right, nobody's cheating, that one guy who cheats wins the game usually, or they get shamed if they're allowed to cheat, and if they are fake enough, right, if they're subtle enough, right, they will win most of the time.
If they are experienced and good at cheating without being
and
detected.
they're also good at the game itself, right, so you can't sort of differentiate between real skill versus cheating. Right, so that's where they win the game usually. But some cheaters are not as intelligent.
Most are not, and
they get caught
obviously there have been sort of professional esports players who have been banned for cheating too. But they have earned money before based on their wins, which nobody was able to detect, right? And so they make some mistake at some point, or someone is suspicious enough to kind of analyze everything they've done so far, kind of thing. So without lots of scrutiny, a good deceiver is really hard to, come across, or not come across, but notice, basically.
Yeah.
Because a good deceiver, by definition, they're going to be hard to notice. So
exactly. Yeah. A lot of people have argued that why don't we just put all the cheaters in the same lobby, and then create the most chaotic gameplay.
A few games have done that.
A few games have done that, and that is in itself a punishment, right?
Yeah.
So they have exiled them to a space where cooperation does no longer exist, and everybody just in a chaotic element, and the cooperative people can play peacefully by themselves, right? And it is a good strategy, of course, but cheating comes in multiple stages, multiple levels, right? So there's like very obvious cheating of just aimbotting, but there slightly, it's not cheating, but like a little bit on the cheat side is like finding the most overpowered weapon, the most strongest tool that you can use to win the game. And people find those two very quickly. The moment a game came out, they just find it happen, and then they just use it, and they just win most of the time until the developer realize, oh shit, I need to balance this thing and nerf that thing, and then everybody get annoyed by the nerfs, and then the cycle begins. And so again, right, when finding that equilibrium of like what is the best way to win, right, the easiest, the best. People lazy, they want to be easiest, the best way to win, so they would just seek out like by randomly doing like repeated bouts, like seeking out, okay, what is the best way? Okay, shit, that's the best one. Optimization, and then you just hold on to it, and then just use it all the time. Right. So, but balance against that is you need outside support, like developer support, to nerf it, or if nobody's doing anything, then you have to use the overpowered weapon as well. Just so that you be on a leveling ground, and then the game become boring. Right, because you basically cut down most of the options and fun options in the game. You only stick to one, and then that's where boredom comes in.
And I think I've done that many times in different games. I've done that in Minecraft, in big multiplayer servers where there was this guy who was making a custom mod which let you kind of use any material for your armor, and you can combine materials and the stats would kind of they just put math to do the stat addition, and so there was no like real strategy. It was more of find the elements that give you the weirdest combos, because there was a limit to how many elements you can combine. So back then in 2009 or something, me and my college friend, we basically spent maybe 2.5 weeks just sitting in the base, just trying every material combination. We had like Excel sheets to go through and sort of find the combo that gives you the maximum stats. And then, and then
why wouldn't you do it?
Right? And the thing is, most people ignored that mod because it was too complicated. And we were not cheating. We simply found it. And then I was like the juggernaut in that entire server, right? And so every time you killed someone, they would drop a head, basically, as a trophy. And in the entire server for almost a year, we had entire acres of rooms filled with heads that we killed. And in those 1.5-ish years, there was one of my head in the entire server which fell off when we were testing a weapon on my armor.
I see.
And we burnt that head to make sure nobody can get it. My head did not exist because I never died, right?
Wow, so you have overwhelming advantage.
It was God mode. It was God mode for
much.
Everything that anybody has.
Pretty much.
We had weapons similar with the same mod which can beat me, but how to get to that was 2.5 weeks of research.
Of course.
Which nobody gaming is going to do. And then at one point, we came across this one guy called Matrav. And his son was in the game as well. He was trolling us. And so we killed him, and he came to attack us. And I fought him because I'm the one to fight him. And we both kind of just stalemated.
Yes.
Turns out he
Right.
did the same thing.
Right, so that's the equilibrium. So
Right.
you reach a Nash equilibrium where both of you are doing the same thing,
Yeah.
and it just become a stalemate.
And then we basically
just can't move.
We just
Yeah.
tried and tried and
Yeah.
tried.
Yeah. And it become boring.
And
Yeah.
we were like, this is going nowhere. And
Yeah,
at one
there we
point
go.
I just stopped and he stopped hitting me. I
Yeah.
stopped hitting him.
Uh-huh.
And we both just started chatting saying, okay, I guess you're using this, this, and this in your armor, right? And he was like, yep. I was like, all right, I guess we're allies now. There's not much we can do.
Let's just team up, guys.
And we teamed up.
Okay.
He was the only player outside of my close-knit base
Sure.
that we didn't attack on sight.
Of course, because they would do nothing anyway.
There's nothing we can do. There's nothing he can do too.
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So this is where I don't want to joke into this, but this is where you reach nuclear power level. So you reach nuclear stalemate, where you,
Yeah,
if you do, it's a mutually assured destruction.
Exactly.
Right.
Or nothing.
Or nothing. Yeah.
But in that case, it was waste of resources and all kinds of things,
Yeah.
right? So
Or it's come boring. Just
yeah,
boredom.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I still remember that fight I had with him.
That's really funny.
Where the weapons and tools I have are a one-hit kill on quantum armor in that game,
Whoa.
which takes like weeks and weeks of work to get, which is the highest level armor you can do through the game. And like that's a one-hit kill for me. And we're fighting each other and we're losing half a heart, regenerating. Half a heart, regenerating. Right? And so yeah, so that's like exactly that. And even in sort of Battlefield, I had a time when that was not related to finding loopholes or genuine ways. It was in Battlefield for me. It was a pure mechanical skill advantage, right?
Sure. You just have a lot of experience in playing.
Just an insane level of experience in, for example, flying helicopters for me.
Sure.
And my friend from the US, he was in jets, right? And so I could not fly a jet if it was for my life, right? And he couldn't do anything in a helicopter. But we would get in a game and we would spend the first 3 minutes trying to procure a helicopter for me and a jet for him.
Right.
Once we do that,
You win the game.
a team of 64 versus 64
Yes.
didn't matter.
All right. Yeah.
It was just me with 300 kills and 0 deaths, him with 250 kills with 0 deaths. And it's just like...
two versus everybody else, basically.
The war doesn't matter.
Anymore.
We see a tank, take it up. The enemy is just in chaos because they're just infantry against our entire vehicle manslaughter because their vehicles just don't survive because we're just taking them out before they even come out of their gates.
Sure.
And so that was not any tricks or a secret.
You discovered the Nash equilibrium.
It was just a pure investment of
Yeah.
energy and learning
Yeah.
to get to an advantageous point.
Yeah. You just naturally learn from many hours of playing that is the best strategy.
Yeah.
And then you rush to that strategy immediately and then win the game basically. And laugh to everybody who
And the thing is, with the Minecraft example, I would argue that if you don't have the logical systematic steps to go through the elements, you'll genuinely not find. There's no way for you to find it.
Yes.
But in, for example, Battlefield, if you simply put time in learning something, anybody can get to it.
Eventually you'll get to that point.
Anybody will get to it, right? So I think I see those two things as two separate things where, one of them was a secret we found with luck or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other one is no secret. I just have enough passion and drive to kind of just get that one thing really good beyond anything else out there, right?
Yeah.
So
this is where the blurred line between skill and cheating comes in.
Right.
Like where is the point where you reach like, is it actually skill or does it kind of jump a little bit into the cheating element?
And I think that's a bit I feel like it can be subjective, but it's also very easily technically definable.
Yeah.
Like I know a person from Sweden, Liti is a game name, but
Yeah.
He used to play Battlefield with me and then Counter-Strike with me as well. And I know for a fact that he's not cheating.
Sure.
But when you spectate him, the first response in the first 5 seconds is he's cheating.
It's just because he's
It's
so
just
good.
because the distance between my best and his average is just too much.
Right.
He's
right.
just too
It's so
far.
high. His skill level is
just
so
too
high
far.
up. Yeah.
Because I can deal with average people at a certain level of confidence,
Yeah.
but then he can deal with me as like twice as much confidence, and
Yeah.
I'm above average, for example. Right?
Yeah.
So it's just the discrepancy is just too much.
Yeah.
And so
It's-
unless you genuinely know the person and literally look at his window screen and check him, it's really hard to believe that he's not cheating.
Yeah. It's like in a basketball game, like at what height are you cheating?
Yeah.
You basically can reach the net just by reaching like this.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that really cheating?
Yeah.
Right. So like a lot of sports have very strict rules against cheating, right?
Yeah.
Or like doping or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like you can take supplements,
Yeah.
but at what supplement becomes a cheating?
Yeah.
And that can be a blurred line, and
Yeah.
they have very strict rules against that. Or like height requirements, or in boxing weight requirements, muscle requirements, and
And in one MMA fight, I think I saw there was a big controversy because this guy has asthma, and when he went back to his corner after one of the rounds,
Sure.
Someone gave him a shot of inhaler, right?
Okay.
And that is not allowed
Really?
because there's sometimes steroids in it.
Ah.
And there's sometimes chemicals in it which basically give you an adrenaline boost
Sure.
or basically act like an EpiPen.
Yeah.
And so that can absolutely fire up certain muscle groups in your body.
Sure.
Or even the
What about
heart as well.
painkiller, like kill the pain and then you can fight more?
They're not. The thing is, I think people at that level are at a point where they are mentally able to disconnect their pain from that.
Sure.
There's people who have, like Mike Tyson, like he's fought with a broken back, right?
Yeah.
He's boxed with a broken back. Right? So those things are there, but the thing is, it's like how Eddie Hall. Do you know Eddie Hall?
No.
So he was a world's strongest man at one instance in 2017 or maybe some other year.
Sure.
So he is the first person to break the world record for the heaviest, not the heaviest, but the 500 kilo deadlift.
Weightlifting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he plateaued at around 400 something kilos. And for over a year or something, he could not go a kilo more than that
Sure.
that he could do.
Sure.
And so he went to certain hypnotherapists and stuff,
Okay.
and they taught him the tools to create a genuine enough feeling scenario
Yes.
where he is putting himself mentally in the state of lifting something off of his child.
Off of his child. Oh, right.
So he would get into that state,
Right.
trigger
It's that
adrenaline.
extreme panic adrenaline,
and
where you put a lot more
so
muscular
he
thing.
basically would get
Yeah.
into that state,
Sure.
and he lifted 500 kilos, and the
Wow.
judges are telling him, that's enough, you can drop it, and he's looking around like, this
Yeah.
is nothing.
Right.
Bleeding from his nose,
Yeah.
body breaking down, but he's just holding it up. And as soon as it's down, he's
Flat.
out.
He's flat.
Right?
Yeah.
And so
So he basically
he
into
reached his physical limit.
yeah.
And then the specific hormones let him go past it. So those are the reasons akin to those kind of, that concept, that possibility of doing that
Yes.
is what opens up when you take things like inhalers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because what you put in the inhaler is, no one's checking that.
No.
So that's why, so there's many rules like that when you come to regulations that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's absolutely ways to give yourself an advantage physically, purely from doing something in a super short term, like instantaneous kind of superpower type thing. So yeah.
Yeah, our body has a built-in mechanism of like saving ourselves in a fight or flight response, where we can use a lot more strength than we can normally can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it will break our bones. Actually, we can punch to the point we can break our bones. But you not feel the pain. Like you're in that state of mind where you can push past your physical limits. And he went into that mind, right, in that state of mind, on demand, and then reach that world record. That is incredible. But at the same time, it's a cheating.
But that's the thing, right? Because he didn't do anything external other than in his mind, right?
Sure.
So again, it's a blurry line type thing. But then again, technically speaking, he didn't cheat, right?
Yes.
He didn't do anything
from the definition
external.
Of that. He didn't cheat.
He didn't
but
break any
if they
regulations
add in
or
the
anything.
hypnotherapy as within the definition, then it will be counted as cheating,
because the same thing that adrenaline pump or like an EpiPen would do to you, if you train your mind enough, you can genuinely get to that state yourself.
Sure.
Because it's just pushing some hormones which your body can do anyway.
Got it.
But it naturally happens in a different situation.
That's right.
If you create the situation genuinely enough, you can get to that state. So then would that be cheating? No. Technically no. But it's the same result, right?
Yes.
So,
I would like to switch gears.
Okay.
And well, let's go into like how do you defend and protect against cheating, fraudsters, anybody want to take advantage of you, lying, people who are lying, how to catch them, right? So let's go into that a little bit, right? So first element is take away the naivety is the first way to protect yourself, right? The first thing to understand is there's no such thing as free money, ever.
Or
anybody
free resources of
any kind, right? So unless the person is like a very close relative, like your mother, your father, or your uncle, whatever, nobody will give you free money, right? Free discounts, free. So those are baits. So whatever you see, those are all baits, right? So free money, free lunch doesn't exist. So that's
and in today's most misunderstood currency, which is attention. Nobody's going to give you free attention either.
Got it. Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
So any resources. Money is the most common one. Attention is the most common one on the internet. So when you're using any software or social media or anything where oh, this is free, I can just make an account and start using it. That means you're selling yourself, your own attention. Basically, you're trading in your attention.
Yes.
And the other side doesn't care what you get out of it. They're there to take your attention. So
and the second thing to know about is you have faith, whoever the stranger, whoever that you want to work with or become friends with or whatever, you first have faith in them that they will be trustworthy, because living in life where everybody is cheating, everybody's evil, it's not a good way to live, and it's actually disadvantage to yourself in the long term. So have that faith that that person will cheat, also that person will be truthful and trustworthy, and then you be cooperative with them. But the moment they cheat, you confront them immediately if you're in close proximity, or stop working with them immediately, that tit for tat scenario. So go into that tit for tat and protect yourself immediately, right?
But it's not really tit for tat. You're saying more of becoming aware of it. You're not telling them to cheat back. You're saying become aware, cut off ties, or bring up the discussion to basically point at the cheating behavior or whatever was negative.
That's right. And when you are becoming a vulnerable person, right, when you're growing old and you are losing your mental capacity to think on these levels, then you must put protective measures in place before you reach that point. Like you're 80, 90, then you're vulnerable to those, being cheated on. Then when you're younger, when you're in the 60s or 50s, then you put protective measures in place.
For example,
where you will not be reached, by fraudsters easily, right? Where you have a adult, like a functioning adult that's protecting you, right, in the vicinity.
It could be as simple as, I think, if someone calls me, asking me for money, and if I genuinely feel like I need to pay them, I'll just run the scenario by someone who is more aware, updated to the latest things. And have more mental capacity than you do. So that's another thing. And lying and protecting against lying and deception, it's a lot harder to do,
of course. So at first, you have to understand that the baseline of lying, everybody has a baseline of lying all the time. So about 5% to 10% of anything everybody say is lying, because we are recreating scenarios in our mind when we speak. Right? We're actively, so when you talk about like about your past or your memory, some of that memory has already been like processed to the point where you're technically lying, but it's also most of it's true, but some details are not true anymore.
So we could be genuinely saying the truth, but our recreation of the situation that we are describing may be skewed or modified over the years, or corrupted in some way.
So this is where eyewitness in court has now become a lot less trustworthy than in the past, because of these psychological limits of recreating memories. Has some elements of lying in it, right? So, but when you feel like someone is really lying to you, right, you can test things with them, right? So you can pretend to really be curious of certain things, and then it's like a trap to understand like where they're gonna go with this. It's like a scientific experiment you do with the person, right? You have an hypothesis, you go for that experiment, like ask that person for something, and then just watch what they do, like be attentive of what they say, how they're acting, how they're gesturing, how their body language, and of course you can't say like, oh, that person had twitched his eyebrow, he must be lying. That is not how it should be. So you should find for cluster of behaviors. Right, cluster of behaviors.
So they may twitch their eyebrow. They may look this way, that way, up, down, whatever the thing is. But it's not one behavior that leads to it. It's a sort of set of different behaviors in combination.
Happening in a short time frame. And then you watch for that. And also every person has baseline behavior that they do. Like they scratch here. Like they normally just normal thing they do. I hold my nail, my ring or whatever. So that's a baseline. People just naturally just do it. But when they're lying or when the emotional state, that baseline changes. Right. They start acting away from that baseline. And you can notice that behavior. Right. And you don't need to be a polymath to be connected to a polymath machine, lying machine, in order to see that. But you can tell if you watch attentively, and if you kind of believe that they are lying, that you can test and understand. And the moment you have finalized that, okay, that person definitely is lying, then you cut off ties immediately, right? If you could correct them, you could try to improve. If that person is like
Depends
really
on
close
the
to you,
situation, right?
If that person is really your best friend or like your children or whatever, you can put extra effort into correcting them or improving them. But if that person is a complete stranger and have no connection to you, then you need to protect yourself immediately.
Okay. Speaking of sort of lie detectors, or what was the machine?
Polymath. Polygraph.
Polygraph, right?
Machines,
So, I mean, those things I never really thought they were. Like, I never thought they can 100% give any kind of binary answer. It's just a possibility that
polygraph. Polygraph. What it measures your physiological responses. Right. So as I was saying, right, we can look at gestures and facial expression, things like that. But polygraph gives you more data. So it measures your blood pressure. It measures your heartbeat. It measures like all of the physiological factors that we normally cannot see or detect. So because it has an additional data, you can make a better conclusion.
In combination
of what your
in
combination of cluster of behaviors that they're already showing. But even then, there's some people who are really good at lying.
But the thing is, I think there's obviously those people who are really good at lying, or have found a way to change their own baseline or control their baseline more on demand. But I think there's also the angle of when someone is accused of something that they genuinely didn't do. The fact that they're now in that vulnerable position, which they're not normally in their normal day-to-day life, could potentially, I think, put them into a weird baseline where they are extremely nervous or scared. which can skew the results into making them look abnormal.
Sure.
You know, a family member might see and say like, why are they acting like this? But they're acting like that maybe because of the position they've been put in of, you know, being accused of murder or something, which they've never imagined in their whole life. And they're just shock and fear,
their stress levels spike, and then their behavior changes.
So there's things like that have happened in interventions.
You need to distinguish between lying, body language clusters and panic behaviors, panic and fear type of behaviors. And most of the time it's quite obvious when someone is actually in panic and behaviors, but in like very quick scenarios that's hard to detect. So for example, like a lot of policemen or policewomen, they have been accused of killing very quick, like, you know, innocent people, like, but shooting them very quickly because they just judge that person is committed, that person is dangerous, that person is carrying a weapon. And if someone is like fidgety and like have a fearful situation, the police might interpret that as dangerous behavior and then just shoot them on sight. Right. And because if they didn't shoot, they might get shot and die as well. So in those high octane, high conflict scenarios, distinguish those two behavior can be very difficult. And also, if you're stupid enough to commit a very low level crime and get killed for it because you become very nervous and act in a different way, then so you lose way more than what you cheated on, right? Because I've seen a lot of police reports about those false killings that they have done in these extreme scenarios, where usually like teenagers like have selling drugs or like not extreme crime but small level crime like stealing bags or whatever, and then they chase after the teenager or the child, and the teenager just they don't have the ability to control their emotions, so they become extremely fearful and nervous, and then the other person policeman interpret that as dangerous behavior, and then and also because when you're in an extreme panic or fearful scenario, you can no longer listen to what the policeman is like, put up your hands or put up your bag, and you can no longer process those complex commands anymore. You're just in your very base instincts, and that's where, and then the policeman interpret that as like, that person is not listening to me, that person might be dangerous, and then just goes spiral down to a very bad scenario, very bad consequence.
Cool.
And also with deception and understanding deception, I want to get into the dark triad personality traits. Right. Dark triad personality traits are people who are psychopathic, narcissistic, Machiavellism, so people who are sadistic. So these kind of people, they tend to do more of these frauds and criminal behaviors. Right. They cheat a lot more. They tend to want to get advantage in the short term, in sacrifice of the long term. Right. So in a psychopathic scenario, right, because of their inability to feel emotional empathy, they can empathize with you like logically, right, but emotionally they don't mirror your emotions. So they can take advantage of you and cheat on you without feeling the guilt associated with it. So because they have a talent of lacking guilt, emotional guilt, and they find equilibriums of behaviors where they take advantage of people and then they don't get a consequence back. So it's like, okay, this works, let's stick to that, right? And then they keep doing more and more. And narcissistic behaviors are similar, where they prop themselves up, right? They give compliments to themselves, or they pretend to be who they're not, much better than their own skill level. And if they feel that that's working, they'll stick to that a lot more.
It's positive reinforcement.
Because they naturally have higher self-worth in themselves already, and if the society reward that behavior by giving them more money or more success, then just stick to that scenario and amplify it even further. Right. So and sadistic behaviors as well, again, like people who enjoy causing pain in others, right? They just enjoy people suffering, so they intentionally do it. They intentionally cheat and fraud and cause pain in others, just to see them, just to get that enjoyment of like power and control over others.
Okay.
So just chasing after power, chasing after influence.
Okay.
Right. So when you look for liars and detect deception, you must also look for these dark triad personality traits, because those people proportionally do a lot more of those bad behaviors than a normal person. Because a normal person have normal psychological barriers in place, like guilt, like shame, but they sort of lack those behaviors. So they do
or
a lot
if it's
more.
a normal person and they did Botox too much as well. Because if they do that, they can't feel emotions then as well.
Sure.
Because the only way...
It's difficult to feel emotion when your face is...
because the way we feel emotions is we mimic the other person. The person in front of us, we mimic their facial movements, and then our body feels it. So, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
I think we cover a lot of different topics.
I mean, there's more to go into it, but I think time-wise, we've kind of gone over an hour 10. So yeah. Cool.
So
all right.
let's stop there. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You can share if you've come across your own fraud, you've been frauded before, cheated before, and you know how you defend it against yourself, or you learn from it, or you didn't learn from it. So please share us your thoughts.
I mean, I myself have been scammed many times.
I think everybody's gets scammed at least less than 5 times in their life, you know. It's just part of growing up.
And I'm only talking about financial scams. I mean, there's all kinds of other scams I've fallen into as well, non-financial ones. And, you know, I myself have cheated in games, not multiplayer ones though. Usually I play single player games, finish it, and then go in with cheats and enjoy the powerful weapons and all that kind of stuff. So there's lots of different things where, you know, games actually show you an accelerated kind of timeline of these kinds of behaviors, you know. So you can see the whole thing run itself in like a short, like half an hour period, because that's how long a game lasts or something. So that's interesting to see. And social engineering as well. I've done so much of kind of reverse psychology and stuff like that when I want like my team to vote for a certain map because I want a certain map in Counter-Strike.
Sure.
I've specifically learned a few sentences which I type. It massively increases the chance of them picking what I want them to pick, even if they are complete strangers, right?
Sure.
And so, like, I do
that's cunning. Like, you're using a level of cunning to get your results.
And it works. And I've taught my friends, and it works with all of us together. And there's so many tricks. Like, you know, we join a game, and it's random people who never are going to work with you. But when I say a certain strategy, I tell my friend to say specific thing back to me on voice chat, even if we're on Discord separately, for the team to hear, and it just tricks everybody to work together in that moment. And then those things are for the collective good, but they don't know it's for the collective good, but they are also being tricked, you know? So
they're being tricked into doing something good.
Exactly.
Funny. We didn't get into other types of cheating, like, you know, relationship cheating, sexual cheating, but that's a massive whole topic we can talk about later. But we cover everything, you know. So game theory we covered, psychological elements of cheating, and evolutionary reason why we cheat and just deceive others.
And in animals as well, that would be interesting to talk a little bit about.
I would love to talk about how animals, you know, fake behaviors by changing their appearance, changing their sex, their gender, like they're
that's
changing
not really cheating though.
Like changing their weapons, the chemical weapons that they strike against each other, right? Very fascinating.
But there's a lot to talk about.
All right, thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
Next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.